Hello everyone, first news update for 19th of March. Now it's 9 past 9 by the way, in the morning Moscow time. And I have prepared quite a number of news on some major developments for this update, and hopefully you will find it informative and useful. And in case you are watching this short episode of today's update on YouTube and Rumble, please consider to click that like button and leave some commentary. It does works time to deal with the algorithm. And also please keep in mind that this project exists as long as it has community support. So if you like my work, if you like my channels and want me to continue, please consider to support my work. You can do it by subscribing to my Patreon, where you can have access to full news updates, or you can support through donations through PayPal platform, for example, or the Boosty platform. All the links are on this video in description box and in the pinned comment. That's been said. Let's go through some news now, and I will start with one conversation that took place yesterday evening Moscow time between US and Russian presidents. During the live stream yesterday late evening, I did spoke about details of that conversation, what was known at the moment. You can check out that video, by the way, on my YouTube channel. But anyways, for a wider community, I will go through some nuances once again. So US President Donald Trump made statements following this conversation with the Russian president. Also, White House and Kremlin issued a short summary about these talks. But let's go first through some statements that US president made about this conversation. So according to him, talks with Putin went well, and they discussed many topics, including path to the peace when it comes to Ukrainian crisis, although they also spoke about Middle Eastern crisis and many other topics. The Russian leader, according to Trump, did not demand that Trump stop helping Kiev. This issue was not discussed at all. That's quite interesting. I believe Trump stated this during his interview with Fox News. US military is not involved in this conflict, according to Trump. Otherwise, it could escalate into a World War III. I have some doubts about this. Of course, US militaries are involved and were involved from the beginning. And after all, one should keep in mind that Kiev regime is unable to operate with ATACMS missiles. Kiev regime has no satellite grouping to organize long-range strikes with missiles or drones. All this information mainly was provided by US, and US military personnel was and is on the ground in Ukraine, and maybe some of them were even participating in a Kursk invasion, and they are encircled now in that area, because according to some reports, there are dozens of NATO officers in the Kursk salient area in encirclement, and also significant number, large group of foreign mercenaries that are mainly English speaking. So among them, I mean, there could be US troops also. So therefore, I doubt this statement of US president. But anyways, let's go through some more statements on relations with Russia. Trump said that Moscow and Washington may improve economic relations after the end of the conflict in Ukraine. Russia has the resources that United States need, among them rare earth metals. Washington intends to normalize relations not only with Moscow, but also with Beijing. Well, that's quite good stuff there. This planet is big enough for everybody. So therefore, neocons should be pushed aside in US so that Washington will stop escalating constantly with Beijing. because Trump talks about World War III quite often, and one of the ways World War III may start is if Washington will provoke direct conflict with China. And by the way, if Russia-US war is going to be end of everything, end of human civilization, US-China war is going to be end of civilization also, and we should always keep that in mind. China is a major nuclear powerhouse. It might not have as many nukes as Russia or the US, but their nuclear capabilities are very strong, and give it another 5 to 10 years and China will be on the level of Russia and US when it comes to mutual destruction, guaranteed mutual destruction, which in turn means end of this world, right, if it comes to it. So it is good that at least during the interviews Trump is exercising possibility of normalizing relations with Moscow and with Beijing. It's all good. And he said that US will be friendly with both. Well, we will see. We will see that. And dear friends, I give you also some details that Russian side published on these talks between Putin and Trump. So Putin informed Trump that on March 19th, or today, by the way, Moscow and Kiev will exchange POWs. 135 Russian POWs should be released, and Russia will release 175 Ukrainian POWs. Also, Putin and Trump spoke in favor of normalizing bilateral relations in light of their shared responsibility for stability in the world. The presidents of Russian Federation and the United States also agreed to remain in contact on all issues raised in the phone conversation. The presidents of the Russian Federation and the United States confirmed their intention to continue efforts to resolve the Ukrainian conflict. Putin told Trump that he was ready to jointly work out ways to resolve the conflict in Ukraine, which should be sustainable. Russia and the United States will create expert groups on the Ukrainian settlement, and these groups will start work in Jeddah or somewhere in Saudi Arabia. By the way, this week I already see some reports about that. As a gesture of wow, excuse me, dear friends, I'm not gonna start recording this update again, so excuse me. As a gesture of goodwill, Russian Federation will hand over 23 seriously wounded Ukrainian servicemen to Kiev. Putin supported Trump's idea of a mutual 30-day ceasefire on our energy infrastructure. And Russian president actually already issued the order to Russian armed forces to stop conducting any long-range strikes on energy infrastructure on Kiev-controlled territory. That's that's a partial ceasefire agreement that Russian side basically implemented straight away. Significant message from Russia, I believe, that Moscow is very serious about resolving this issue for once and for all. Putin and Trump agreed to begin talks to work out their initiative concerning the safety of the navigation in the Black Sea. So probably some agreements will be reached about Black Sea also in upcoming talks. Putin called their complete cessation of military aid to Kiev their key condition for resolving the conflict in Ukraine. And Trump said during his interview with the Fox that Russia did not demand the end of military aid, but in Russian media we have different information. Putin actually called the complete cessation of military aid to Kiev as a key condition to resolve this issue. Putin confirmed to Trump that the Russian Federation guarantees the lives and decent treatment of Ukrainian soldiers if they surrender in the Kursk region. And by the way, Trump also spoke about Kursk region, and he once again stated that some 2,500 troops, Ukrainian troops, are encircled there. And I mean, I wonder from where this information is coming from, because if you take a look at the map, by the way, in the Kursk-Selian direction, I mean, for the last 3 days, battle maps are not making no changes. So there is you can see clearly on your screen right now, sort of 4 small pockets right next to border, right? Areas, mainly around Gernal and Oleshnya settlements that are formally controlled by Kiev regime, but these pockets, these areas are bordering with the Sumy region that is controlled by Kiev regime. So I doubt that Kiev regime's forces or the NATO officers or NATO mercenaries are encircled here in these areas, in these pockets, because there is no encirclement there. Forces can cross border in and out. You know, it's a possibility for them. So therefore, I really struggle to understand where these 2,500 Kiev regime's troops are encircled, in which part of this former bridgehead the Kiev regime had, where these NATO officers are encircled, and what is going on around this topic, by the way. I mean, it more time goes by, less and less sense these statements about encircled Kiev regime's forces, encircled their NATO officers, and encircled NATO mercenaries makes, right? Some more information definitely needed. I can understand, I can see their scenario that, maybe some groups of enemy forces are encircled somewhere inside this former bridgehead that are already been claimed as completely liberated by Russian side, in between settlements, in some forestry or stuff, but without any factual information, it's difficult to say. And at this point, all these statements, like Trump said yesterday that some 2,500 Ukrainian troops are encircled, and information from pro-Russian resistance about encircled NATO officers. I mean, these statements are becoming kind of laughing stock at this point, because no evidences of that, right? We should acknowledge that there is no evidences of any troops of NATO or Kiev regime are encircled anywhere there, right? You tell me, dear friends, what you think, but I mean, on the battle maps, that's the situation. All battle maps are more or less same on this matter, isn't it? There is just this tiny part right next to a border that formally still controlled by Kiev regime, and there can be no encirclements there because these territories are bordering with the Sumy, and troops can cross this border before Russian troops establish control there anytime they want. So there is no encirclement, right? I don't know. It's a strange developments there, and therefore I have some doubts now. I have to tell you, dear friends, I have some doubts that anybody is encircled in that direction. Until we will learn some more, we should take all these informations about encircled troops with a mountain of salt, right? So this is when it comes to this conversation between Putin and Trump. They also spoke about Middle East. They also spoke about cooperation in energy sector in different fields. Okay. I didn't expect much from these talks, so therefore I will characterize it as a progress, as a step forward towards ending their hostilities. But one should keep in mind, dear friends, that in my understanding, this is not the talks between Russian side and some sort of mediator that tries to, end the conflict, play positive role between the Russian side and the Kiev regime, for example. No, US is a part of the problem, right? US is involved in this proxy war against Russia. US is a hostile state towards Russia, and Trump represents enemy. Literally, Trump represents enemy of Russia. He is an enemy of Russia. And don't be mistaken, dear friends. This is not ordinary talks to de-escalate. This is negotiations on capitulation of collective Western ruling class, and obviously their puppets, including in the Kyiv regime. This is talks about capitulation of the collective West. Trump and his inner circle, they can talk whatever they want, right? They can brag about anything they want, but reality is that this is talks about conditions on which Kyiv regime and its Western masters will capitulate. We should always keep that in mind. They lost it. They started this proxy war, and they lost it. And sooner they will capitulate, sooner they will come to their terms, the better. There will be lesser casualties, lesser destruction. That's all. This is talks about capitulation of the West. And in no circumstances, Washington, Trump, and his administration will be able to, present this whole situation as some sort of, victory on the U.S. side. No, U.S. lost, right? Big time. U.S. is the enemy of Russia currently, and U.S. lost. U.S. was leading charge against Russia in this proxy war. They lost it, and seems like at least their political so-called elites in U.S. are realizing that, and they don't want to go down any further. They're already being embarrassed worldwide, by the way. Everyone understands that U.S. is a paper tiger, NATO is a paper tiger, right? Entire NATO was fighting against Russia. They sent hundreds of billions of dollars of weapons, money, intelligence. They sent thousands and thousands of their own troops disguised as mercenaries. They were working actively worldwide to actually recruit mercenaries, so that thousands of them were sent. Nothing to be said about hundreds of thousands of Kyiv regime's troops that were neutralized by Russian forces. Obviously, collective West sacrificed Ukraine, first of all, during this proxy war, and the citizens of that former Soviet Republic, and they lost it. And world will definitely never be again, and the West will never ever regain position when they are some dominant force on this planet. That time is gone, finished, right? And yet again, sooner they will come to the terms, the better, because they cannot do much no more. They can escalate, yes, in certain directions, but all these directions might lead to Third World War and the end of everything. And if Western ruling class is not suicidal, if they don't want to be obliterated in a nuclear fire, then they will think twice and then think again. Do they really want to escalate with Russia any more than they already did? So that's what it is, dear friends. Collective West is capitulating. I don't know how long these talks will last. It is a painful process for the Western world, understandably so. They were thinking that they are dominant force, they are ruling this world, and Russia smashed their freaking faces time after time after time, and continues to do so, right? But nevertheless, eventually, not just so-called elites in US, but also so-called elites in Europe will come to the terms that they have to end the hostilities, they have to de-escalate, because longer they continue, even more painful this loss will be for them and more damaging. That's it, by the way, when it comes to this whole topic. Hello everyone, if you find this video interesting and useful, please click that like button, leave some commentary and share with your friends. If you like my work and want to support this project, you can do it through several means. All the links are on this video in the description box and in the pinned comment, including links to my Patreon and Boosty pages, where you can have access to full shows in case you are interested. Thank you.